So knee and ankle, back and forth, is no issue?
No.
Okay. Gluteals aren't too bad?
No.
Okay. You didn't have any low back pain, so.
But this would be good for that low back pain.
A lot of people, when they see me do this, I do this in almost every session. And sometimes it's to work the gluteals, and sometimes it's to start shifting the lumbar spine and get those vertebrae, those facet joints to open up. A lot of people will have tightness.
It
I can
really
just
relieves my lower back pain.
jostle them into submission. Oh, man, if I take you up, how we doing?
That's good.
Okay. Now if I give you some calf stretch,
Good.
well, that seems pretty limited. Yeah. So if students showed up and they said, okay, Robert, we've got 6 hours. I'm like, okay, we'll cover the lower leg. They're like, what? 6 hours? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, if you just want to cover that one little area and stuff we could potentially do and go over the anatomy, physiology techniques, prone, supine, sideline. They're like, oh my God.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, basically, it's like I have to bring them back to school.
Yeah.
Like, this is not table-based Swedish. This has no effleurage base.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean, it's not that effleurage is a bad tool. I always criticize because I think they use it for everything when it's not always the best thing to get the job done. How your foot?
That's good.
You're like, I'm a mom, Robert. Of course you rub my feet.
Of course. More, please.
But then into the calf.
That's a nice stretch.
There we go. So I can hear right there.
Yes.
You grew up in Houston?
I did. Born and
Yeah.
raised. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up. Houston feels, it's still Texas, but it feels more like Louisiana where I grew up.
Really?
Swampy, Baton Rouge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's closer. Also, I was used to, Baton Rouge was like 50% black, 50% white. So it wasn't until I moved away that I went, oh my God, like, Robert, you're almost black. Culturally speaking. I was like, man, you grew up with like red beans and rice. Like these people, you know.
Cornbread.
Yeah. So like Houston was interesting because I moved to Austin, and Austin was the first time I had access to like Tex-Mex and more like Mexican culture. And then when I would go to Houston, it was like this weird in between because you had that, but then you had more black people. So it was like, it was a weirder cultural melange, including like Asian population because it's a port city. Yeah.
Houston is extremely diverse. That's what I miss most about Houston is
The diversity.
the diversity.
Yeah.
All the different foods and cultures. And that good stuff.
Yeah, I think in some ways Houston gets a bad rap, but I haven't been able to really, bodywork wise, I haven't been able to break into the city. It's weird.
It wasn't until I moved here that my eyes became opened to more about massage, and I was just surprised. It's not as, I mean, yeah, there are therapists there, lots of therapists, but it's not as well received for some reason. And all these different modalities.
Oh, I just don't,
not.
I don't know. It's like Houston is the 4th largest city in the U.S. I don't see their market as being extremely developed for bodywork and
It's
massage.
Not,
Yeah.
It is not at all.
Right there.
You can definitely tell it hasn't been stretched.
Yeah, it was one of those things like growing up where half the population's black, like you think you understand and know black people. And then I love stand-up comedy, Chris Rock in particular. And I saw Chris Rock do Good Hair. Have you seen that documentary?
I have not.
Holy moly. Let me just tell you, as a white person, I had no idea that black people went through so much issues with their hair. Like the whole thing is like him going into barbershops and hairdress salons and like talking about hair and extensions and, you know, braids and just on and on and on and on. And like all the economic and social and political things around it. And I was like, good God. Like, dude, I had no...
You have no idea what many of the plethora of issues that blacks go through.
Yeah.
For many of things.
Well, like I think the title of the film comes from his daughter because his daughter was like upset because she didn't have good hair.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever they define that as.
Yeah.
So, just interesting.
It's a struggle.
Now, if I take you up and over, you have no tension in your low back. You just rolled over like it was nothing. Yeah. Let's have you do this. I'm going to have you lay on your left side.
Okay.
I'll give you a pillow here. There you go. And then I'm going to lift this leg and give you a little bolster here. Comfortable there?
Yes.
There we go. And as I put pressure on the foot, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, cultural differences. People, I think they think, you know, like there's one American culture. And I'm like, no. No. It's like you need to hang out with people of different ethnicities, like in closed groups, and
Right.
yeah.
To really understand, and even then the understanding is limited.
Yeah. It's hard to express.
Right.
Like, so culture is this weird force because growing up in Baton Rouge, Hurricane Katrina happened, and then I moved to Austin. So like you grew up in that, but there was a period of time I moved for a year to basically York, Pennsylvania, which is right next to Lancaster County, which is where the Amish are. I moved there directly from Baton Rouge pre-Katrina. And I was driving down the highway in York, and I was like, oh my God, I'm black. I was like, these are the whitest people I've ever been around in my entire life. Like, I have no idea what's going on. I grew up in the land of gumbo, boudin, jazz, funk, soul. To wind up basically around the Amish in like a rural part of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, what? What is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or people generally I found interesting, like there were people in Pennsylvania who, you know, looked at it as part of the North. And they looked at those Southerners as like slow and ignorant and dumb and, you know, racist. And I was like, nah, dude, people in Pennsylvania are way more racist. And they're like, what? And I'm like, dude, you don't, there's no people of color here to like deal with
Right.
on a daily basis. And they're like, we have black people. And I'm like, really, where? And they're like, I saw one like last week.
Like,
But see, it's like, it's all in perspective.
Right.
It's like,
It's true.
it's such a weird, it was such a weird construct for me. Because like when Hurricane Katrina happened, this is after I'd returned to Louisiana, you know, the national media is like, oh my God, look at this. And it's like, and? Like, dude, New Orleans might as well goddamn be Haiti compared to the rest of the United States.
Right.
It might as well be in the Caribbean.
Right.
It's not, you know, it's a very distinct culture. It's not the same. How's this in here?
Nice and supple compared to earlier where it was really
And if I
intense.
get along the tibia in here, it's not too bad?
No.
Okay.
There's still some tenderness right around
Yeah.
not bad at all.
If I sink in right there.
That's good.
Okay. Now up towards the knee or down towards the ankle?
Ankle still
Ankle still? Okay. If I come a little bit lower, how's that?
better.
And is it still like you prefer the sheer down?
Yes.
Okay, I want to change my body position just to make it easier for me to lean that way. Right there. And then down towards the ankle?
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, cultural stuff was real interesting because when I went to massage school, you realize you grew up in a culture that didn't have any touch. So you'd actually gotten very little of it. They had like touch hunger. Because now, like guys don't touch guys because that's gay.
Right.
And then if guys touch women, it's because they're flirting with them.
Right.
And I went into body work because of chronic pain. I was just like, I don't care. I don't care about your race, creed, class, ethnicity, gender. I don't care where you are on the LGBTQ.
Right.
Like, just can you mash on me?
Literally.
So you started to butt up against it, and even all these years later, I released a series of videos where I sat on Sarah Yamada. So like I'll sit on their adductors at their thigh. It's another big broad compression, kind of like I did with your leg. And I was sort of polarizing and testing the marketplace because I've been doing this for 17 years. The problem is it's not normal in American culture to sit on people.
Right.
So there were some massage groups in Washington State I got banned from. They're like, you can't do that. You have to get informed consent. And I went, what? Informed consent for what? And they're like, Robert, women have been raped. And, I'm like, dude, it's a video of me working on a colleague.
Right. There's no rape going on here. So
Well, people have had, trauma. And I'm like, I know they've had trauma. That's what I'm trying to help them with. Like, I think they're making certain cultural assumptions. So right there, is that too much?
No.
I saw you move a little bit. If I sink down towards the ankle.
It gets a little bit more tense.
There we go. There are so many cultural assumptions. Like, I'll give you another one. This is what I find interesting, at least. In Louisiana, growing up in a culture where half the population was black, it changes the way people verbally communicate. So if you sit down in most places in the United States with a group of white women, the white women will take turns talking. Now, what do black women do?
I mean, well, I've got something to say, and you're gonna say it at the same time.
It starts to overlap and they talk over each other.
Yes, we're gonna say it.
But then if I sit in that circle, influenced as I am by where I grew up, people are like, you're fucking rude, you talk over women. And I'm like, what? You see what I mean? But it's like cultural context and like what people are used to. Because there's little unspoken norms about how some of that goes that, start to call into question. So for instance, I'm doing something they felt was inappropriate because I sat on someone, the client's completely clothed. I don't remember the last time I had a client take clothes off. See what I mean? Because you're fighting massage culture now. Yeah.
So then we don't help people because others have misguided perceptions or opinions.
Well, I mean, I started to engage in the conversation, what is informed consent? Like, I'm not going to make the person sign a form telling them all the ways I might interact with their body to help them.
Right.
But I also can explain how I communicate with people and build up to things. I don't just come in and go, okay, sit on her. Hey, welcome for your session, DeAndre. Sit on you. It's like, no, I built up to that over hours. Even if I would do it in the first session, which isn't always the case.